Hello and welcome to another episode of Autogefuel. Today with me AJ and Michelle. And welcome to the new Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. A hardcore machine with one purpose in mind: to provide sheer, unadulterated driving performance and pleasure. And yes, with a naturally aspirated flat six engine. We are here in Scotland and we're going to take it out on the racetrack to see what it can deliver. Are you ready? Come on, let's go. The Cayman GT4 is a very low and wide car. Of course, it has to be. It's a purposeful sports car. The headlamps are, of course, what we see from the standard 718, but I think they look really nice. Blacked out, LEDs, a lot of functional aerodynamics. For example, the vents at the top, a lot of vents and intakes, and channels to provide a very sleek air curtain. The splitter and the lip also provides a lot of downforce. In fact, this car has a very low coefficient of drag and can produce 122 kilograms of downforce. This car weighs 1,490 kilograms. Let's take it as 1,500. So it's not necessarily featherweight, but I think for the size of the car and the performance and power it has, pretty nimble and pretty lightweight nevertheless. The Cayman GT4 is 4.4 meters long. And, of course, it has the Porsche adaptive suspension management, the adaptive dampers, but the entire chassis has been lowered by 30 millimeters. We have Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires on 20-inch rims. And, of course, you can also get the optional ceramic composite discs. You have 6-piston brakes up front and 4-piston brakes at the rear. Being the GT4 and not the 911, or the 718 rather than the 911, this is a midship, mid-engine layout. So the 6-cylinder boxer engine is low and wide and installed right in here. That's why you see the air intakes over there. It makes 420 horsepower. We'll take a closer look in a minute. But it's really efficient. It's naturally aspirated, which is fantastic. High revving. But it can even do things like cylinder management. So it can deactivate one bank of cylinders and run as a 3-cylinder engine and keep shuffling between the two banks. It's coupled with a 6-speed manual transmission, which is also really nice. Short throw with dynamic powertrain mounts so that the vibrations are not carried over. And it has a dual mass flywheel running the rear engines with a torque vectoring mechanical limited slip differential. The rear of the GT4, I think, is a great balance between form and function because it looks fantastic, but also this large wing and the diffuser are very functional. Like I was talking about earlier, reducing drag and improving downforce is the name of the game here. So combined with this large fixed rear wing, the spoiler and the diffuser, this car makes 50% more downforce than the outgoing model and 122 kilograms of downforce in the end that can be achieved with all of the aerodynamics that this car has to offer. This fixed wing along with the spoiler looks really great, but we'll take a look from inside. It does hinder a little bit of the visibility from the rear view mirror. Blacked out tail lamps, Porsche badging right across the center, and the GT4 logo down there. Large diffuser and twin exhaust pipes which sound phenomenal. As we look inside, predominantly black. A lot of black on the dashboard, black in the headliner, everywhere. So it is very sporty, but that's the way I like it. Sitting inside is a little bit tricky, especially with these seats. And since this is a fixed roof and not the Spider, you have to really squeeze yourself inside. But, you know, it's a low, sexy sports car. These are some things you're going to have to live with. The seat really hugs you and holds you in place really well. I'm 5'8", or about 1.7 meters. I have plenty of headroom, and you can see there's still quite a lot of space behind me in the seat, which means that taller passengers can also push the seat back and fit in really well. Officially, it's called 718, but I've been using 718 interchangeably because I think it sounds pretty cool. What do you guys think? Which do you prefer? You have a large tachometer in the middle, which has a gear position indicator, as well as a readout in the speedometer. And since we're here in Scotland, that reads out in miles per hour. But there's a speedometer on the left-hand side, and since this is a left-hand drive Euro spec version, it's in metric units, and we have kilometers per hour on the left-hand side. The right section is actually a screen, so you have multiple different views. You can see, for example, your audio control, the vehicle status, like things like temperature and oil, the performance curve as well. You can see how much torque and power the car is making, the G-force meter, a gear shift assist, which is pretty useful, especially out on the racetrack, and it helps you make better shifts. A chrono. So the GT4, interestingly, does not come with the chrono package as standard, but the Spider does. This is a 4.6-inch touchscreen, and again, because it's the entry-level 718 and this generation has been around for a few years, it does, let's say, have a classic vibe to it. And of course, it only comes with Apple CarPlay. There's no Android Auto. But for example, I like the details like this old 911 logo for the settings to get into your car menu. But the touchscreen itself is pretty slick and responsive. While the 718 might not have 4 seats, it also is pretty practical because at the back, thanks to that mid-engine, which is down here, you do get some more space at the back to put some more luggage. It even has some anchor points. But there's also a front trunk, and let's take a look at that. Well, there's actually nothing in the front, which means you have a very large 150-liter storage area down here to put some suitcases. You can easily fit 2 or 3 cabin-sized suitcases and a couple backpacks on the side. It's also really deep, going all the way to the bottom floor of the car, and very rectangular. So it is quite practical. So this is actually a new 4-liter 6-cylinder boxer engine that's in the new 718 GT4 and the Spider. It's actually part of the same Carrera 911 series of engines. What that means is basically the bore and stroke is similar, but a lot of the components are brand new. For example, these injectors are also really advanced. They're brand new, and they are able to inject up to 5 times within each suction stroke. This engine produces 420 PS, which is metric horsepower, and 420 newton meters of torque between 5,000 and 6,800 RPM. It's a very high revving, naturally aspirated engine, which is fantastic. Goes all the way up to 8,000 RPM, and peak power comes in all the way at the top at 7,600 RPM. The 0 to 100 is 4.4 seconds, and the top speed is just over 300 kilometers per hour. Being a boxer, it's really low down, very compact, low center of gravity and wide, which is perfect for a mid-engine car with which is then able to get a great 50-50 weight distribution. Let's take the Cayman GT4 out on the racetrack where it's meant to be. First of all, I'm going to turn on the sports exhaust, turn the auto blip on so I can concentrate on the track, and put the suspension in the stiffer setting, the PASM. This car also has the Club Sport package, which means I have bucket seats, carbon fiber, a roll cage, and under Michelle over there, there's a fire extinguisher. It is also quite loud in here, but like we were discussing, the most things that give you the most joy sometimes aren't the most practical, and this is case in point. So the Knockhill circuit is a pretty interesting circuit. It really tests and tries to unsettle a mid-engine car like this. So as we start picking up pace, we'll talk a little bit more about that. A lot of blind crests, and if you're on the power too early, because it's a mid-engine, the front becomes a little bit lighter, and then you find a little bit of understeer. But that high revving, naturally aspirated 6-cylinder boxer engine is really right at home. Brakes are also really, really, really sharp. Gives you a lot of confidence. After this hairpin, now we're on the home straight, so let's take it up to the red line. There's also a nice shift indicator which turns orange and red to help you shift. Brake hard over here, but turn in, let the car balance itself, control that little bit of oversteer and understeer, brake hard again, turn in, use the curb to run wide, Late entry into this corner. As we go up into the chicane, it's blind. Try to keep it in a straight line to not unsettle the car. Again, being mid-engine, the front becomes a little bit lighter. These seats are also, I think, really fantastic if you plan to do a lot of track days with the GT4, because they really keep you in place really well. The Club Sport steering wheel also gets this center marker stripe on the steering wheel, so it really helps get your bearings when you're making tight corners like this. The auto blip feature is really fantastic when you want to just focus on learning the track and not bother with doing the heel show. The mid-engine flat boxer configuration means that it is a bit tricky to access and maintain. You always have to remove the engine and the subframe, but that wide, compact, low center of gravity that it provides in this midship configuration really gives you a great balance around corners like this. Then with that torque vectoring limited slip differential, when you're making your way around chicanes, it really rotates so nicely along its vertical axis. This car really feels right at home, even in a track like this, which is a little bit unforgiving of, there we go, like that, with a little bit of understeer, unforgiving for mid-engine cars. Certainly is very loud here in this GT4 spec, not a lot of sound deadening. I was actually doing quite a lot of laps, about 15 laps earlier in the same car, and I'm filming right now just after that, and the brakes are not fading, the engine doesn't feel tired, everything is still as sharp. It just says, let's keep going, let's keep going. And that engine noise is just addictive and exhilarating. And it can even keep up with its big brother, like you can see in front of me, the GT3 RS 911. Very well balanced. Steering is also a lot heavier when you're on the racetrack. It gives you really good feedback. The thin spoke also means you can really grasp it with confidence. The stiffer setting for the PASM is also much nicer to use on the racetrack because it gives you, we're going to let some faster people pass us now. But yeah, the PASM in the stiffer setting allows you to, allows the car to really adapt to the undulations on a racetrack much better. Visibility out the back is definitely compromised a little bit because of that large rear wing. But visibility out the side and the front is pretty good. Catching up to the GT3 RS, so I'm going to back off a little bit. Oh yeah, man, this is really right at home. Brake hard, just let the car settle itself as you throttle down these corners. Late entry, gently power on so that you don't get understeer. Late entry here, down and up into the blind chicane. Keep it in a straight line like that. Turn in, run wide. The throttle response is also sharp and instant, and that linear power delivery, because of the naturally aspirated engine, means you really know it's where the power is coming in. It's very predictable, it's very manageable. And that short shifter with the dynamic mounts gives you such tactile precision when you're shifting. So all in all, the GT4 really is right at home out here on the racetrack. Let's summarize today's episode of the new Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. With prices starting at around 96,200, let's be honest, you're going to put some more options on it and it's near as makes no difference 100 grand. And it is a bit expensive for a 718, but then again, you have to think twice because this is a GT4 and then it makes a lot more sense. So in the end, if you want something practical, this is not really going to fulfill your needs because it's a bit loud. Those bucket seats are quite uncomfortable. The lowered suspension and the stiff ride is also not that compliant on long roads, on long journeys, but that evocative engine and that emotive performance, that's what you really want this car for, and it delivers in spades. So, if you have 100 grand and you're looking for a track toy, look no further. Let me know what you guys think. Put it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.